afternoon, and we're starting with a live look at downtown Buffalo. We still see those clouds, but there have been some peaks of blue in the sky as well. So I think we're going to get some decent sunshine today. Not a ton, but there will be some sunshine, and those showers have moved fully out of our area. So at least the rest of the day is going to be dry. And yeah, we have those mild temperatures. Temperatures are already above average. Patrick, you're outside. I'm sure you're feeling the mild weather out there.
Oh my gosh, it is so mild. You know, before I left the station a little while ago, it was so dismal outside. It was drizzle and rain and windy. And I get on the Skyway and I look off to the west and the skies are totally blue. So we do have some clearing going on. It's certainly mild. And the rain has left the building, at least for now anyway. But yeah, Lauren, the one thing that is so, if you recall, a week ago today was Dingus Day. And it was just, I mean, we had rain and snow and cold. This just, you can tell something's changed, right? This is a very different Monday.
I mean,
yeah, it is definitely a much milder weather pattern. And I think that this is kind of where we're going from here, with one little blip in the 7-day forecast that you'll see down the road. But we've got a very comfortable rest of the day today, although it will be a bit windy, as you can probably tell behind me here in Hamburg, where the skies kind of come and go. We've had the blue, we've got the gray temporarily, but we'll be back to kind of a mix of both. Let's get to your forecast and start things off with kind of a little rundown of how we think things are going to go. First of all, the showers this morning are coming to an end, and it will be breezy. It looks like tomorrow we've got thunderstorms in the forecast. It will be mild with temperatures getting close to 70 degrees, but some of the storms tomorrow could be strong. And then as we head to your day, I would say the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, midweek, it is going to be kind of rainy at times. Periods of rain, not all the time. Kind of hard to time little impulses are going to work through. The good news is that temperatures will be very close to 70 degrees. So as we look to the current outlook, right now it does appear that we've got, again, wind and some clouds for the rest of the day today. Temperatures hovering in the 60s, falling off a little bit as we head into the evening. But the good news is it does appear that the rain is pretty much over, at least this round of rain, for the day today. All right, temperatures are very comfortable. We're in the 60s. Yesterday, we did hit 71, which might surprise some people. It happened just before 6 p.m. So the mild weather kind of arrived yesterday after a cool Saturday. And it's mild, as you can see, with temperatures, again, well above average. And it's a little breezy, too. We've had winds 25 to 35 miles an hour in gusts, and up to 40. I know we had a 38-mile-an-hour wind gust. We're probably approaching 40, and we'll go to that 40 to 45-mile-an-hour wind gust in spots for the rest of the day today. So yeah, it's going to be breezy, if not windy. You can hear the kind of the trees here roaring in the background as the wind whips through. Now on satellite and radar, as you can see, the showers are pretty much done. They've pushed off to the east, and you can actually see a little bit of clearing out to the west. I think we'll see some spots kind of stuck in clouds today, but there will be breaks in the overcast, especially across the southern tier. All right, and as you pull out a little bit, you'll see there's not much coming our way behind that batch of rain that came through this morning. So I think we're all clear with the precipitation. However, an isolated thunder shower can't be ruled out. Let's say from Olean to Wellsville, Bolivar, Portville, Cuba, and then down towards Bradford. Okay, that's a spot. And as you you put the whole thing in motion, you can see quiet weather now, but a couple storms are possible. That leads us to future look. And one thing you'll notice, of course, is a partial clearing in the sky today. Look south, you'll see a couple little thunder showers develop across parts of Cattaraugus, Allegheny, Potter, and McKean counties. That's a possibility. Now we take you to Tuesday. Tuesday presents a whole different set of challenges, if you will. We do have a day that could be a little bit more active than today. in the form of some thunder showers, some of which could be strong to severe. Currently, the Storms Prediction Center has us under a marginal risk of severe weather for tomorrow. And it looks like that would mean that these storms that come our way could potentially have some gusty winds with them. And maybe, it doesn't really look like hail is much of a threat. But anyway, there could be a couple of strong storms. Now, when do they get here? It appears there will be a batch of thunderstorms in the morning, and maybe some scattered thunderstorms after that in the afternoon. That is the part of the forecast that's the trickiest, because that remains to be seen if we'll get another round. Sometimes you can have these morning thunderstorms, and what that does is it kind of works the atmosphere over and takes, I don't know, think of it like taking the gas out of the next car coming up. There's not as much heat and energy in the atmosphere to fuel up a second round, unless you can get some energy added back into the atmosphere, and that can happen a couple of ways. But one way is to get maybe a little partial clearing to heat the atmosphere back up, or you get some what we call just dynamics, some energy from upper level winds or some twists coming through. So second round thunderstorm activity is possible tomorrow. Either one could produce, though, the chance of some severe weather, something we're going to be monitoring for your Tuesday. Temperatures, by the way, will be on the mild side on Tuesday, not as windy as today. Then as we head into Wednesday, more rain shower opportunities, and that'll be the case into Thursday as well. I do believe that it's kind of hard to time, not all day washouts, but there will be periods of rain to contend with Wednesday and into Thursday as well. All right, in terms of wind today, this is a future look at winds, and you'll see that we kind of peak this afternoon with 35 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts, but they should begin to taper down later on this evening and tonight. Tomorrow will be breezy, but not windy. Today, the wind gusts approach 40 miles an hour, 45 even. Tomorrow, the wind will be more in that 30 mile an hour range in terms of gusts. Now, as I mentioned, the forecast beyond Wednesday and Thursday is one we're watching too, because it will also add rain chances. Wednesday, we're kind of right under the flow of jet stream air, if you will, and it's bringing a flow of moisture over us and a front as well that acts to kind of kick off some of these storms. Bottom line is we're going to be kind of in the line of fire, if you will, of rainfall chances anyway. That's Wednesday and Thursday. Either one not producing widespread or persistent rain, but there will be periods of rain. And when you add in Wednesday and Thursday to the rain that we have already had today, we could get 1 to 2 inches of rain in spots through Thursday. And some areas in Chautauqua County could get into the 2 to 3 inch range. Areas maybe away towards the Finger Lakes might be a little bit less, but you get the idea. We've got more rain coming this week. So this week has a different vibe. It's warmer, it's more active in terms of rainfall, and believe it or not, something not very typical of April is humidity. You're gonna feel the air. It's gonna feel a little more like, okay, we're into the late spring season. April is not known for its humidity, but we'll have that higher dew point air, if you will, this week. So you'll have a little bit more of a warm season feel to the forecast, just how it feels outside. So the forecast for today looks like this. We've had the morning showers, and that will give way to partly sunny skies for the rest of the day today. As we head into tonight, mostly cloudy, temperatures falling into the 40s, and then tomorrow we're going to see, again, scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be strong, to severe. We are under, I think, did I mention this? I think so. We have 5 levels of alertness from the Storms Prediction Center. We're under a marginal risk tomorrow. That's level 1. An update on the risk assessment comes in about an hour. In fact, we'll maybe even shorter than that. I have a hunch they might elevate us to a slight risk tomorrow. We'll see. But either way, there is a chance of some active weather tomorrow. Looking at the 7-day forecast, it looks like this. We are going to see rain chances on Wednesday and on Thursday. Notice Thursday's highs now getting into the 70s. That'll be nice. And Wednesday will be close to that number as well. We've kind of got a similar weather pattern for both the north and the south. I think the southern tier might have a better chance of thunderstorms on Wednesday. Thursday, we all have a chance. Now, there will be a brief cool down, if you will, on Friday behind a cold front that moves through late Thursday. What that will do is bring our temperatures back into the 60s. We'll clear out the clouds some and certainly take the rain away. And so Friday's looking dry, and so does Saturday at this point. Saturday may turn out to be a pretty nice day. Temperature-wise, we'll be in the mid-70s. There might be some clouds around, but there's a front coming, and that front will bring more rain showers. At this point, the timing looks to be like late Saturday night, but mainly into Sunday. So Sunday might be the worst day of the weekend. It will be in the 50s on Sunday behind that front, and we'll see scattered showers around as well. And as Lauren was looking at the forecast even into the longer range, next week, Monday, could start off much, much colder than this Monday, with temperatures likely around 40, low 40s to start next week. I wouldn't be surprised if the hills even have a few rain and snow showers maybe to start next week. We'll see. But there you can see, Lauren, a spring vibe. We've got some moisture, we've got some showers and thunderstorms, we've got a little humidity, but at least we're warmer. We're done with the cold air, but as you saw, maybe a little cold air to start next week.
I know, but I don't want to scare anyone too much. It does look like any cold air that we do get next week is going to be pretty short-lived, so don't panic. It's not going to be like a massive return to winter, just a brief return of some March-like temperatures, but then we should be back on the upswing. So even though it's definitely a damp week this week, try to enjoy those periods where it's not raining, because there is going to be plenty of dry time throughout the week, and those temperatures, yeah, they're going to be in like that mid to late May, even early June by Saturday. So, I mean, that's the kind of weather I like to enjoy.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, Lauren, you know, lately the moon has been in our thoughts lately.
Yes.
With Artemis and the discovery of the dark side of the moon. Lauren is coming up to talk about the moon and its effects on our climate and Mother Earth. That's coming up. All right, welcome back everyone to Hamburg, where the skies are still kind of cloudy. The wind is still kind of roaring, but hopefully the clouds clear a little bit tonight so we can see something in the sky that oftentimes we kind of maybe don't give enough attention to or don't think enough about its impacts of our life. We couldn't have life as we know it on this planet if it wasn't for the moon and the gravity it helps produce. And there's some really neat things about the moon that maybe you didn't know. So Lauren here is going to take a deep dive into our largest satellite, which is what the moon is, by the way.
That is true, and it is our only natural satellite. Mercury and Venus do not have moons, so we are the first planet in the solar system that does have a moon or a natural satellite. And I figured this was kind of a good time to talk about the moon, because obviously the Artemis 2 astronauts had their splashdown on Friday in the Pacific Ocean. They completed their mission around the moon. This is a quick look at what their path was. So I wanted to kind of just talk about the moon and kind of aspects of it in general. So we talked a lot about the dark side of the moon. Obviously, Artemis went around the dark side of the moon and was able to capture photos of it, because we typically don't see that from Earth, which might sound kind of weird because we know that the moon rotates around the Earth and it also rotates on a y-axis. So you would think eventually we would see all parts of the moon, but that is not the case. The way the moon's rotation works on that axis is that it's pretty much in sync with how it rotates around the Earth. So we only ever see that one side of the moon. Technically, because the moon's orbit is elliptical and not a perfect circle, we do see little fringes of the other side of it. So we see about 59% of the moon in total, but there is a 41% of the moon, the dark side of the moon, that we never see because it just continues to rotate in this way, and we are always facing the same direction of the moon, and that is called tidal locking. That is where basically the rotation on the y-axis is in sync with the rotation around a body. And so we only see the one side of it because that's how it works. Now, again, I talked about how the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. I have it as a perfect circle here because it was easier to animate that way, but it's actually elliptical. So the moon is not always the same distance from Earth. So we have this thing called perigee and apogee. Perigee is when the moon is at its closest to Earth, when it is about 225,000 miles to Earth, and then the apogee is when it is at its farthest point from Earth, about 250,000 miles from Earth. So the moon's distance from Earth can differ about 25,000 miles, depending on where it is in its orbit. And then what also kind of happens is that because the distance that the moon is from the Earth can vary, that also varies how large the moon does look in the sky. So when it is at apogee, that is what we have called a micromoon. That's when the moon looks its smallest, so we call it a micromoon when we have a full moon. Compared to the perigee, where it is at its closest, that's where the moon looks its largest, and we have those called supermoons. So typically a supermoon is about 14% bigger than a micromoon, and it can be up to 30% brighter. Typically on any given year we have 3 to 4 supermoons and we have 2 to 3 micromoons. The reason why we can actually have more supermoons than micromoons, even though you would think it would be the same, is because that close orbit to the Earth just has a greater amount of distance where the moon can fall, where it would still count as a supermoon, whereas the micromoon is a bit more specific where you have to really hit that apogee. Now, what's cool about that, so this year we are going to have 3 supermoons. That was the Wolf Moon back in January, then the Beaver Moon and the Cold Moon, which is the November moon and the December moon. Those are going to be our 3 supermoons this year. And then we are going to have 2 micromoons, the Strawberry Moon, that is our June full moon, and actually the Blue Moon. So a blue moon you get when you have 2 full moons in a given month, which is possible because the moon's lunar phase is about 29 days. So if you have a full moon very early on in the month, like we will in May when it will be on the 1st, that is going to be the flower moon. By the 31st, the moon will be full again, and that is going to be our blue moon. And those are going to be our 2 micromoons of the year. What is also very cool about the apogee and perigee is that can affect the type of solar eclipse you get when you do have an eclipse. I figured why not talk about eclipses now, because we're not going to get another one over Buffalo for another, I think, hundreds of years. So let's talk about it right now. So if you have the moon at perigee, where it's closest to the Earth, that is how you get a total eclipse. But if it's at apogee, or if it's just a little bit further, it's not going to look big enough to cover the actual sun. So when you have that total eclipse, that's when you can actually take off your eclipse glasses briefly and you can see the corona of the sun. But with the annular eclipse, you can never do that because it doesn't fully cover the sun. And so you're seeing still kind of the outskirts of the sun, and that's called the ring of fire. Also of note, a solar eclipse can only ever happen during a new moon. That's when the moon is, we're not seeing any of the sunlight that the moon gets because the moon is obviously between the Earth and the sun. So you need a super new moon in order to get a total solar eclipse, whereas it could be micro or just anything other than a super new moon in order to get that annular eclipse. But obviously we don't have eclipses all the time because in addition to the moon's orbit being elliptical, it's also on a tilt. It's about a 5-degree tilt, but that is enough why we don't have a lunar eclipse every month or a solar eclipse every month, even though there are times where it does seem like the Earth should be casting a shadow on the moon or the moon should be casting a shadow on the Earth. That tilt is just enough that we don't get it every time. So when the celestial bodies do align, it is very special when we get to notice those eclipses. Now, the big thing that everyone kind of associates the moon with are the tides and what it does to the tides. So let's talk about that very briefly for a moment. Obviously, the sun is a very strong celestial body with its gravitational force. So we do have a bit of a pull on the tides from the sun. And then we have a pull on the tides from the moon as well. So when that pull is in the same direction, coming from the moon and the sun, that's where we have the spring tide. That's why we typically tend to have higher high tides when it is a new moon or a full moon. Now, when the moon is at a half moon, that is when we have a neap tide, because the tidal pole is working in direct opposite to the sun's pull on our tides. So we're actually having lower high tides and much lower low tides. But then again, once you get to the full moon, we have those higher high tides, and then back to the half moon, it's back to the neap tide. So the spring tide is when we have those higher high tides, and the neap tide is the lower high tides. And then I just briefly wanted to talk about, yes, I already talked about the Earth's atmosphere, and that's what helps to give us our weather. All of our weather takes place in the troposphere. The moon does technically have an atmosphere, but it is very thin and doesn't do too much for it. That's why they don't have weather on the moon. It is called the exosphere. And what's very beneficial for us is that our atmosphere, typically with things like meteorites, it helps to burn it up so we're not constantly being hit with meteorites. Whereas the moon, that's why it has so many craters. It has thousands of craters, whereas the Earth only has about 150 recorded craters. Also, our weather helps to smooth that over, whereas the moon does not have the weather to do that. So that's kind of a quick look at the moon.
All right, hey Lauren, I am fascinated. I've got some questions for you about the moon when we come right back.
Oh boy.
All right, Lauren, you said something to me that you said to everyone that I found fascinating. Oh. And that is, we see the moon and it's got thousands of craters, but only 150 craters here. Of course, we know of, and a lot of them are either under the ocean or they get smoothed over by erosion. Mm-hmm. You've got the one in Arizona outside of Flagstaff. You've of course got the big one on the Yucatan, which wasn't a very good day for the dinosaurs, right? Oh. Chicxulub. But where are these, there's 150 craters around?
I think
that's
the
crazy.
Exact number was around 140 that we have. I did not look up all the exact locations for it though, but I mean, again, that number just kind of pales.
Are you ready for the? It's crazy to think how many there are on the moon and how few there are here. But guess what? There is a crater under Lake Ontario. Did you know that? It's called the Charity Shoals Crater. It was there was whether it was an asteroid or a comet or some celestial body hit there 460 million years ago. Wow. And it was on the eastern end of Lake Ontario. So we have a crater about 2 hours from here, believe it or not.
That is fantastic. You have that to think about for the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Forecast. We'll see you Wednesday.